The sky above Threxus was always red. Dust storms moved like angry ghosts, and the air smelled like metal and smoke. Every morning, the slave bells rang. Every human on the planet knew what that sound meant. Time to work, time to bleed. Jero was only 16. His hands were hard from digging. His back carried scars, but his eyes still had fire. He lived in Sector 17, one of the worst slave zones. The alien race called the Varn ruled this place, tall creatures with pale skin and gold eyes. They didn't speak much. They didn't need to. One order from their silver staffs, and any slave who disobeyed would fall, burned from inside. Jero's father, Bram, used to tell stories. "We come from Earth," he whispered at night. "We were not always slaves. Long ago, we were free. We flew across stars. We fought great wars, and we never bowed." But Jero had never seen Earth. He had never known freedom. Only chains. One night, after the last work bell, the guards dragged Bram away. No reason, no warning. Jero watched them beat his father, then vanish into the storm. He waited for hours, but Bram never came back. The next morning, Jero stood in the mining pit, staring at the same rock wall he had hit 1,000 times. He wanted to scream. He wanted to fight, but one wrong move, and the guards would kill him too. As he lifted his tool, something caught his eye. A body. One of the slaves had died during the night shift. The guards had left the corpse lying near the rocks. Jero looked around. No one saw him. He crouched beside the body. The slave's wrist was still in its chain, but inside the cuff, something was scratched, a map, a few strange lines, and a symbol, a burning star. Jero didn't understand it, but he felt something strange in his chest. Like heat, like a voice whispering, "You're close." He took the cuff and hid it under his clothes. That night, back in the slave quarters, an old man noticed him. His name was Krell, one of the oldest slaves alive. He had worked the mines for 60 years. "You found it, didn't you?" Krell whispered. "The mark of the phoenix." Jero's eyes widened. "What's that?" Krell leaned close. "It's a symbol from Earth, from before the Varn came. Some say it was the sign of the last human general. They say he vanished before the fall, but not before he hid something." Jero's hands shook. What did he hide? "A weapon," Krell said. "Or maybe a message. No one knows. But the Varn fear it. That's why they kill anyone who finds the mark." Jero didn't sleep that night. He stared at the cuff again and again. The symbol seemed to glow faintly in the dark. The next day, Jero returned to the same spot. He hit the rock slowly, pretending to work. When the guards weren't looking, he dug deeper where the dead slave had fallen. And then, clang, his tool hit something hard. Not rock, not metal. It was a small black box, covered in dust, smooth and warm, like it was alive. No buttons, no keyholes, just the same burning star symbol on top. He pulled it out and hid it in his shirt. That night, he opened it in secret. Nothing happened. He touched the symbol. Still nothing. Then his finger bled. A small cut. A drop of blood landed on the box. It opened. Inside was a silver shard, thin like a knife. It glowed red. And then Jero heard it. Not a sound, but a voice in his mind. Phoenix Protocol. Identity match. Earthborn. Jero jumped back, breathing hard. Krell looked at him from across the room. "What did you do?" "I don't know," Jero said. "It spoke to me." Krell smiled for the first time in years. "Then it has begun. The fire is coming back." Far away, in a tall Varn tower, an alarm lit up. Earth SIGNALDTKT. A Varn officer walked to the screen and narrowed his eyes. "That should not be possible," he said. "The last Earthborn was killed years ago." "Then kill this one too," his commander said coldly. Back in Sector 17, Jero stood in the darkness, holding the glowing shard. The chains on his wrists felt heavier than ever. But his eyes burned with fire. He looked up at the red sky. "They took my father," he said. "They took our world." He closed his hand around the shard. "Now, we take theirs." In the control tower of Varn Command Base 9, a red alert flashed across the screens. Unregistered human tech signature detected. Mining Sector 17. Slave Zone Threxus, the AI voice said coldly. Commander Soren leaned forward. His gold eyes narrowed. "That signal is impossible. Earth tech is dead." "No," his second-in-command whispered. "It's not dead. It's waking up." In the dark sleeping quarters of Sector 17, Jero stared at the glowing shard in his hand. It had stopped talking, but he could still feel its power inside his head. Like a sleeping storm, old Krell sat across from him, his voice shaking. "That's Earth military tech. Very old, very powerful. They say it only works for Earthborn." Jero frowned. "But I was born here, on Threxus." Krell pointed to Jero's hand. "The shard doesn't care where you were born. It knows your blood. Your blood remembers." Jero looked at the shard again. Was this really his fate? He was just a miner, just a slave, nothing more. But deep inside, something said no. He was more. Hook, 5 to 7 minute mark. Hours later, a Varn patrol entered Sector 17. "Surprise inspection," one of them said. No talking, no moving. Jero tried to hide the shard under the floorboards, but just as he stood up, a guard stepped closer. The guard stopped. He stared at a child nearby. The child had been drawing in the dirt. The Varn's eyes widened. "What is that?" he growled. It was a symbol, the burning star. The same symbol from the shard. The guard shouted in fear, "Kill it. Kill the child." Before anyone could move, Krell stood up. "It's just a drawing. He's a child." The Varn didn't care. He raised his weapon. Crack! A blast of blue energy flew past Jero. The child fell. Dead. Everyone froze. Jero's blood boiled. His fists clenched. But he said nothing. The Varn looked around. "If any of you are hiding Earth tech, speak now, or all of you die." No one spoke. The Varn left, but not before warning. "The next one we find, we'll burn the whole sector." That night, Jero sat alone. He opened the shard again. This time, he spoke. "Can you hear me?" The shard lit up. A voice answered. Not loud, not soft. Calm, ancient. Jaro, son of Bram. Bloodline identified. Rank, unknown. Orders, awaiting activation. "What are you?" Jaro asked. "I am a memory, a weapon, a guide." "Guide for what?" "The Phoenix Protocol. Resistance command, hidden since Earth's fall. You were not supposed to wake me, unless the time was right." Jero took a breath. "Then maybe the time is right." The next day, Krell led Jaro deep under the mines. Most slaves thought it was just dead rock below. They were wrong. The hidden chamber waited there. It had strange markings on the wall, symbols of Earth's old military. Stars, wings, fire. This was a secret shelter, Krell said. Long ago, when the war was still fresh, some soldiers escaped capture and built this place. Jero touched the wall. The shard in his hand pulsed. A hidden panel slid open. Inside, maps, old documents, a broken radio, and a strange helmet with a cracked visor. Jero picked it up. "What is all this?" Krell smiled sadly. "This is your inheritance." Later that night, Jero turned on the broken radio. Static hissed in the air. He adjusted the knobs, one by one. Nothing. Until, click, a voice. Old, scratchy, weak. "This is Mars Base 9. If anyone can hear us, we are not all gone. Earth still lives. Repeat, Earth still lives. The radio died. Jero stared in shock. Krell. Someone's still out there. Krell's eyes were wet. Then the war's not over. Far away, in the Varn capital, Commander Soren received the report. Slave Child used ancient signal codes. One of the forbidden symbols has returned. The commander's voice was cold. Begin the purge. Burn Sector 17. Back in the mines, Jero made a choice. We can't stay here, he said. They'll come for us. Krell nodded. Then we run. But we don't run alone. They moved quietly through the slave sectors, whispering to others. Old soldiers, young rebels, silent watchers. The spark was spreading. The ghosts of Earth were whispering again. And this time, people were listening. The dawn broke over the scorched Varn homeworld. Red skies burned with the fire of war, now fading into quiet. Jero stood among the ashes, his heart heavy but free. Hook. First 5 to 7 minutes. A lone figure approached, a Varn elder, old and weary. You have won, the elder said softly. But what will you do now? Jero looked at the broken world around him. We rebuild, he said. We create a future where no chains hold any soul. The resistance fighters gathered, not as slaves or victims, but as warriors, as survivors, as legends. Jero turned to Layla and Torv. From the ashes of our pain, we build new strength. We will protect those who cannot fight, and we will never forget the cost of freedom. Far away, the galaxy heard the story of Earth's children who rose from chains, who fought the impossible, who burned the darkness with their own fire. The shard pulsed in Jero's hand, a symbol of hope, a promise. The fire would never die. Today, Jero said, voice steady, we are not just survivors. We are the flame that will never die. And so, the legend began. A story passed through stars, of those who were slaves, but became the light. The Varn homeworld lay silent under the rising sun, its surface still smoldering from the fierce battles. The once proud empire was broken, its armies scattered like ash on the wind. But the war was over, or so it seemed. Jero stood on the edge of the battlefield, gazing at the horizon. The shard in his hand no longer burned with the anger of revenge. Now it hummed with the steady warmth of hope. Around him, the survivors moved like ghosts, warriors who had lost everything but carried the fire of freedom in their hearts. We fought to end the chains, Jero said softly, but now we must fight to build a future worth living. Layla approached, her eyes scanning the horizon. There are still pockets of Varn resistance, fanatics who refuse to surrender. They hide in shadows, waiting to strike back. Torv cracked his knuckles. Let them come. We're ready. But Jero knew the battle ahead would be different. This was not a war of fire and blood, but of rebuilding trust, healing wounds, and forging alliances. The galaxy was watching now. Old enemies and new would either join the cause or try to snuff it out. A new threat. Months passed. The resistance grew stronger, uniting planets and species long oppressed by the Varn. Ships flew the colors of freedom, and the flame of Earth burned bright. Yet far beyond the known galaxy, in the darkest void, a shadow stirred. The ancient being that had once smiled at Jero's rebellion, the one older than the Varn, watched with cold eyes. They burned too brightly, it hissed. The fire must be extinguished before it spreads. It summoned an armada of shadow ships, vessels made of living darkness, fueled by fear and silence. This was a force beyond the Varn, a cosmic nightmare that fed on chaos. The Council of Allies. Jero convened a council on the liberated planet of Nova Prime. Representatives of many worlds gathered, humans, Varn defectors, and alien species united by pain and hope. We face a darkness greater than any empire, Jero warned. General Cade, now commander of the Resistance Fleet, nodded grimly. Our old weapons won't be enough. We must adapt. Learn from each other. Fight as one. Layla stepped forward. We found remnants of ancient tech, artifacts from the old galaxy. They might be the key. The Council agreed to send explorers into forbidden space to uncover forgotten power. The heart of the flame. Jaro and Layla led the mission into the unknown. They dove into nebulae, ancient ruins, and ghost planets where time itself seemed broken. Deep in a ruined star temple, they discovered a crystal, pulsing with light older than the stars. "This is the heart of the flame," Layla whispered. Jaro reached out. The crystal responded, flooding him with visions of the past, of countless worlds rising and falling, of fire and rebirth. "The fire is not just ours," Jaro said. "It is the hope of the galaxy." Final battle. Fire versus shadow. The Shadow Fleet arrived, blackening the skies above Nova Prime. The Resistance Fleet, now armed with ancient tech and new hope, met them in a battle unlike any before. Ships clashed in storms of light and darkness. The shard in Jaro's hand flared with cosmic energy. He led the charge, weaving through enemy lines. The crystal's power surged through him, not just fire, but pure light. With one great blast, Jaro shattered the heart of the Shadow Fleet, sending waves of light that cleansed the darkness. The void screamed and receded. A new era. In the aftermath, the galaxy was changed. Empires fell. New alliances formed. And the flame of freedom, born from Earth's pain and courage, burned brighter than ever. Jaro looked to the stars, the shard glowing gently. "We carry the fire," he said, "not to burn worlds, but to light the way." Smoke covered the sky above Sector 17. Black ash rained down like poisoned snow. The Varn had kept their promise. They came in silence. No warning, no mercy. They burned the homes. They burned the people. Old Krell barely escaped with Jaro and a few others. Most didn't. Jaro stood at the edge of the destruction. His hands were black with dust, his heart heavy with fire. The only thing he carried now was the shard. And a promise. "We won't run forever." Hook. First 5 to 7 minutes. A week passed. Deep underground, in an abandoned part of the mines, Jaro and the survivors found something strange. A hidden lab. Old, rusted, but not empty. Inside were tanks filled with thick blue liquid. Floating inside them were bodies. Human bodies. Clones. Mutants. Half-finished things. Some looked almost like Jaro. One even had his face. Jaro felt sick. What is this? Krell stepped forward. This was not made by humans. This was made by the Varn. They were copying us? Jaro asked. No, Krell said slowly. They were studying us. They were trying to understand why we didn't break. Jaro looked at a nearby datapad. It was covered in strange alien language, but the shard translated it. Subject 7, blood type unstable. Subject 12, violent. Subject 16, resists neural control. Earthborn genes, unpredictable, dangerous. They were afraid of us. Jaro smashed the tank. The clone inside fell to the ground, lifeless. These aren't weapons, he said. They're warnings. Krell nodded. The Varn called us beasts, but they feared what we could become. Jaro looked around at the broken lab. Then maybe it's time to become it. The group needed a plan. There were rumors of a Varn outpost in the nearby hills, a place where ships landed and supplies came in. Not well guarded, not important. But it had one thing they needed, a ship. That night, Jaro and 2 others, Layla, a sharp-eyed scavenger, and Torv, a former mining slave built like a tank, moved through the old tunnels. The shard in Jaro's hand pulsed as they neared the surface. Suddenly, the radio on his belt sparked to life. Base 9, repeat, Mars Base 9. If you are alive, You are not forgotten." Jarrow's hands shook. Layla looked at him. What was that? "Hope," he said. That was hope. They reached the outpost just before dawn. Varn guards stood at the gates. Lazy. Bored. Not expecting a fight. Perfect. Jarrow raised his hand. The shard glowed. A red light appeared on one guard's armor. Then, boom, the armor exploded from the inside. Jarrow's eyes widened. "I didn't know it could do that." Torv laughed. "Let's do it again." The fight was fast. Brutal. Layla shot 2 guards in the back. Torv crushed one with his fists. Jarrow used the shard like a knife, slicing through metal and skin. Within minutes, the outpost was quiet. They walked into the hangar. And there it was. A small Varn transport ship, just big enough for a few people, just fast enough to escape orbit. "We can't leave the others," Layla said. Jarrow nodded. "We won't. This is just the start." They grabbed supplies, weapons, fuel, and a strange helmet marked with a human symbol, wings and flame. Jarrow put it on. It fit perfectly. Back underground, Jarrow called a meeting. "We stole a ship," he said. "We found a signal from Mars Base 9. Earth isn't dead. There are people out there, maybe even soldiers." Silence. "Then we leave?" someone asked. "No," Jarrow said. "We fight. We use the ship to find others. We find weapons, allies, knowledge. And when we're ready," he held up the shard, "we burn their worlds just like they burned ours." Far away, on the Varn homeworld, a general read a report. Human blood studies failed. Subject 16 escaped. Signal detected on Threxus. Resistance forming. The general closed the report and spoke into the darkness. "Begin Project Silence. No more research, no more testing. From now on, we hunt." Back in the tunnels, Jarrow climbed into the pilot's seat of the stolen ship. Layla sat beside him, watching the stars. "Ready?" she asked. He nodded. "Let's go find the rest of the ghosts." The engines roared. The ship lifted into the air. For the first time in his life, Jarrow was free. But freedom wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. Jarrow's ship cut through space like a burning comet. Every star they passed was a promise of freedom, of war, of fire. Inside the cramped cabin, the crew worked fast. Layla mapped the next jump. Torv checked the weapons. Jarrow stared at the glowing shard in his hand. It hummed softly, like it knew what was coming. Hook. First 5 to 7 minutes. Suddenly, the ship's alarms blared. "Incoming," Layla shouted. Outside, enemy fighters swarmed like angry hornets. Jarrow slammed the controls. "Hold on." The ship shook from laser blasts. Torv fired back, his heavy gun roaring. Jarrow felt the shard heat in his palm. With a roar, he unleashed a pulse of energy. A wave of fire exploded around the ship. The enemy fighters burned and crashed. Only one escaped. They jumped through the wormhole. On the other side, a hidden base waited. A small fleet of humans, fighters, survivors, and rebels, welcomed them. General Cade stepped forward, face hard but eyes kind. "You made it," he said. "The resistance is alive." Jarrow nodded. "And we brought the fire." The humans showed Jarrow ancient weapons, old Earth tech hidden for years. Plans for starships, blueprints for new weapons, a small army ready to rise. But the Varn were not asleep. In their capital, the Supreme Commander hissed in rage. "The humans spread fire. The hybrids grow strong. Send the hunters." Back at the base, Jarrow trained the fighters. "Remember this," he told them, holding the shard high. "They called us slaves. But we are warriors. We carry the fire of Earth in our veins." One night, the base shook with explosions. Varn bombers attacked. The battle was fierce. Fighters screamed. Ships burned. Jarrow and his team rushed to defend the gates. Layla shouted, They're breaking through. Torv smashed a Varn mech with a single punch. Jarrow fired the shard, sending waves of energy. The battle turned. After the dust settled, Jarrow looked at the ruined base. "We can't keep hiding," he said. "We take the fight to them." The fire was ours. Jarrow led the new fleet into battle. Stars burned around them as they fought. Worlds fell to flames. The Varn cried for mercy. But Jarrow did not stop. In the darkest corner of space, the old alien smiled. "The fire burns too bright. Let it burn." The stars above burned cold and bright. Jarrow stood on the bridge of the flagship, eyes fixed on the distant Varn homeworld. This was the last battle, the final stand. Hook. First 5 to 7 minutes. The alarm screamed. Enemy fleet incoming. Weapons charged. Jarrow's heart pounded. The entire resistance was here. Every fighter. Every ship. Behind him, Layla and Torv prepared for war. "We've come too far to lose now," Jarrow said softly. Suddenly, the ship shook. A massive blast rocked the bridge. Shields down 50%. Incoming fighters. The Varn fleet attacked like a storm. Dark ships swarmed their fleet, plasma bolts flashing through space. Torv shouted, "They want to crush us here." Jarrow gripped the shard tightly. It flared with light. "Hold the line," he commanded. As the battle raged, Jarrow remembered the long road here. From slaves in the mines, hiding in darkness, to fighters in the stars, carrying Earth's fire across the galaxy. Their pain was real, their losses heavy, but their fire was stronger. A Varn warship fired a giant beam. It tore through the flagship's hull. Alarms screamed. Jarrow barely escaped the blast. Then, in the darkest moment, the shard glowed bright, almost blinding. Jarrow raised it high. Energy poured from it like a sun bursting open. The Varn ships froze. Then, one by one, their weapons melted. The tide had turned. With one final push, the resistance crushed the Varn fleet. The homeworld sky burned red. Jarrow landed on the surface, surrounded by his warriors. The Varn leaders fell silent before them. Jarrow looked at the broken chains on the ground. "Today," he said, "we are no longer slaves. We are the fire that burned their worlds. We are Earth's last ember, and we will never go out." The galaxy breathed a fragile peace. After the great battle with the Shadow Fleet, many planets began rebuilding. Their skies clear, their people hopeful. But peace, Jarrow knew, was never simple. Hook. First 5 to 7 minutes. A distress call shattered the calm. From the distant world of Elysia, a once vibrant planet now cloaked in twilight, came a desperate voice. "Help! The darkness returns. We're losing the light." Jarrow stood on the bridge of the flagship, listening intently. Layla and Torv exchanged tense looks. "Elysia was a beacon," Layla said. "If it falls, the whole sector could collapse." Jarrow clenched the shard. "We can't let that happen." Journey to Elysia. The journey was long and perilous. Elysia orbited a dying star, its surface scarred from endless conflict. As they approached, sensors picked up strange energy fluctuations. Neither Varn nor Shadow Tech, but something new. Torv grunted, "We're not just fighting old ghosts anymore." The fallen light. On the surface, the team found ruins. Broken towers, scorched forests, and silent cities. Survivors huddled in underground shelters, haunted by creatures born of shadow and flame. Jarrow and Layla ventured into the ruins, seeking the source of the darkness. They discovered an ancient artifact, a corrupted shard twisted by unknown forces. "It's draining the planet's light," Layla whispered. "If we don't destroy it, Elysia will die." Betrayal from within. As they planned their attack, news came that a trusted ally had been compromised. A faction within the resistance, tempted by power, had allied with the darkness. Jarrow faced a painful choice: fight the external enemy or root out traitors in their own ranks. Battle for Elysia. The final battle raged beneath Elysia's twin moons. Jarrow's forces clashed with shadow beasts and traitor soldiers. The corrupted shard pulsed wildly, feeding the darkness. Jarrow raised his shard, its pure light battling the corruption. In a desperate move, he touched the corrupted shard. Pain exploded through him, but with a final surge, he shattered it. The darkness screamed and fled. Aftermath. Elysia began to heal. Jarrow gathered the survivors. "We are the guardians now," he said. "Not just of freedom, but of light itself." The flame continues. Back on the flagship, Jarrow looked to the stars once more. "Darkness will always return," he said softly. "But so will the flame." And with that, the legend of the flame's guardians burned brighter than ever. The stars stretched out like endless fireflies. Jarrow sat in the pilot's seat, hands tight on the controls. Behind him, Layla checked the scanners. Torv loaded the last of the stolen weapons. This was it. One ship. No backup. No second chances. Their target, Varn Relay Station 12, a small comms outpost floating above the burned planet of Thros. If they could hijack it, they could send a message across the galaxy. To Mars. To Earth. To anyone still listening. Look. First 5 to 7 minutes. The ship dropped out of hyperspeed. Relay Station 12 floated ahead like a cold metal skeleton. No visible weapons. Quiet. Too quiet. Layla frowned at the readings. There's no power spike. No patrol ships. No alarm signals. Torv grunted. It's a trap. Jarrow shook his head. Maybe. But if we don't risk it, no one will ever hear us. We need to send the message. They landed in the hangar. The ship hissed as the door opened. Metal groaned. Lights flickered. No guards. No sound. Only shadows. Jarrow raised his shard. It glowed soft red, casting strange light on the walls. "Stay sharp," he said. Inside the relay station, they'd moved fast. Layla tapped into the terminal. "I can bypass their locks. Give me 3 minutes." Torv stood watch at the door. Jarrow looked around. Everything here felt old, abandoned, not Varn standard, too human. Suddenly, the shard pulsed. A soft whisper echoed in Jarrow's head. "You are not the first." He turned fast, heart pounding. No one was there. "Did you hear that?" he asked. Layla glanced back. "Hear what?" Before he could answer, Torv shouted, "Company." A sidewall exploded. Black armored soldiers rushed in, silent, fast, not Varn. Their armor looked different. Sharper, smarter. Human tech, but twisted. Hybrides. Layla screamed. Torv roared and charged. The hallway turned into chaos. Gunfire. Shard blasts. Screams. Jarrow fought through them, the shard slicing like fire. One soldier's helmet cracked open. Inside was a human face. Torn. Controlled. Eyes full of pain. Not dead. Not alive. Jarrow gasped. "They're using us." Layla shouted from the terminal. "I got the signal open. Sending the message now." "Do it." She hit the button. A voice echoed through deep space. "This is Jarrow, son of Earth. We are alive. We escaped the chains. We hold the flame. If you hear this, we are not done. We are coming." The relay station shook. The Varn had arrived. 3 warships outside, charging weapons. "We're out of time," Torv shouted. "Back to the ship," Jarrow ordered. They ran. More hybrids flooded in. Layla threw grenades. Torv held the rear, his fists bloody. They reached the ship just as plasma bolts rained from the hangar ceiling. The engines roared. They lifted off. A massive beam from the Varn warship tore through the station, but missed them by seconds. In the ship's cockpit, Jarrow gritted his teeth. "They heard us," he said. "Everyone heard us. The Varn. The hybrids. Earth." Layla wiped blood from her forehead. "So what now?" Jero stared into the stars. Now we start the fire. Meanwhile, far across the galaxy, on Mars Base 9, a group of old Earth soldiers stood around a dusty screen. The signal had arrived. A voice. A name. Jaro, son of Earth. General Cade, scared and silent, stepped forward. "He made it," he said. The spark survived. The soldiers looked at each other. It's time. Back in Varn territory, on a dark world deep in the system, a huge alien watched the replay of Jaro's message. Its skin shimmered like oil, eyes burning gold. It was not Varn. It was older. It smiled. "So, the fire returns," it said. "Let them come." In the stolen ship, Layla looked at Jaro. "We've lit the match. Now what?" Jaro smiled for the first time. "Now we find others like us. Fighters. Survivors. Ghosts of Earth." Torv leaned in, and when we're ready, Jaro didn't blink. "We burn their skies."